What's going on, guys? So today I figure we could talk about some new information we have on Fallout 4 and also discuss titles that Bethesda showcased at E3 for 2017. There are a few things I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my opinion on, like the recently announced Creation Club for both Fallout 4 and Skyrim Special Edition. However, before that, I figured I could go ahead and talk about some of the cooler things that we saw. Unfortunately, I won't be showing any footage from the event, as a lot of third-party companies on YouTube tend to process a lot of content ID claims around this time of year. It sucks, but I just don't feel comfortable showing you guys footage from some of this event. While Bethesda themselves may be okay with it, I am just taking precautions. Otherwise, Pete Hines mentioned that every title showcased at Bethesda's E3 presentation will be released this year. However, many of the games showcased lacked concrete release dates, so maybe some games will get delayed while others won't. But without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss the presentation first before we discuss the Creation Club for Fallout 4 and Skyrim. Now, this was sort of mentioned last year, but Bethesda finally unveiled VR versions of Fallout 4 and Doom called Fallout 4 VR and Doom VFR respectively. From what I could tell from the presentation, it appears that both of these titles will only be available on the HTC Vive headset for PC. At this time, it doesn't appear that Fallout 4 VR will release for PS4 VR or the Oculus Rift, which is kind of a bummer for people that own those headsets. From a gameplay perspective, it appears Doom VFR makes use of teleporting for movement, while Fallout 4 VR appears to allow the player to move through the world without teleporting. Ultimately, the VR versions of these games look pretty interesting. My only complaint is that the HTC Vive costs a lot of money right now, and I don't feel comfortable buying an entire headset for just 2 games. We also don't know if Bethesda is going to be charging us separately for each game on top of that, which if that's the case, then I imagine it's going to be an even harder sell. After all, an HTC Vive costs about $800, and in the worst case scenario, both VR versions of Doom and Fallout 4 could cost upwards of $30 to $40 each. Granted, I'm speculating about what the VR games will cost, as they could be considerably cheaper or maybe more expensive. Even still, I do know that I would like to try both at some point, as both could be pretty fun to play. Bethesda also showed some Elder Scrolls stuff. There's a new update for their virtual trading card game called Elder Scrolls Legends, and Bethesda also showcased Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind, which I have to admit looks pretty badass. For me personally, I'm not a fan of MMOs, so that information didn't really do too much for me, but you may feel differently on that matter. But what I did find marginally interesting was the Nintendo Switch port for Skyrim. Apparently, you can get some amiibos and tap them to get special Legend of Zelda-themed weapons to appear in Skyrim. While I suppose there are mods that do this on PC, it's nice to see that the Switch version of Skyrim will get some special features that are unique to it. Bethesda also unveiled a new Dishonored game called Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, and they also revealed a Wolfenstein: The New Order sequel called Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. The new Wolfenstein in particular looks amazing and is something that I am definitely looking forward to playing. And provided nothing gets delayed, having Wolfenstein 2 released this year would be pretty awesome and is certainly something that I'm really looking forward to. Now, the big thing they showed that's Fallout 4 and Elder Scrolls related was the announcement of something called the Creation Club. Based on what little information Bethesda showed during their E3 presentation, it appears that the Creation Club will be a storefront for user-generated content. Now, there is a website, and I'll link it in the description, but it says, quote, "Creation Club is a collection of all new content for both Fallout 4 and Skyrim. It features new items, abilities, and gameplay created by Bethesda Game Studios and outside development partners, including the best community creators. Creation Club content is fully curated and compatible with the main game and official add-ons." The BethesdaNet website goes on to say that the types of content that appear on the Creation Club can include things like new weapons, apparel, new locations, new characters, new enemies, and new gameplay types. The supported platforms include PS4, Xbox One, and PC through Steam. The website also goes on to explain that you will have to purchase credits that are used to spend on the paid content, and the website also mentions that in order to create paid content for the Creation Club, you have to apply and be accepted. And what's interesting is that you can get paid for doing this, and according to the website, it says, quote, "Just like our own game developers, creators are paid for their work and start receiving payment as soon as their proposal is accepted and through development milestones." Bethesda's website also goes on to address the issue of whether the Creation Club is basically paid mods. According to Bethesda's website, they say, quote, "No, mods will remain a free and open system where anyone can create and share what they'd like. Also, we won't allow any existing mods to be retrofitted into the Creation Club. It must all be original content. Most of the Creation Club content is created internally, some with external partners who have worked on our games, and some by external creators. All the content is approved, curated, and taken through the full internal dev cycle, including localization, polishing, and testing." Okay, now that we have some more information, I'd like to go over what I think about this entire program. Whether I think it's good, bad, or something in between. Now, as we've seen with the paid mods for Skyrim debacle that happened back in 2015, Bethesda has been trying to monetize user-generated content for games like Skyrim and Fallout 4. On the one hand, you could say in a certain sense that this is paid mods 2.0. However, at the same time, you could also make the technical argument that these aren't really mods, since not just anyone can simply slap their name on something, upload it to a marketplace like the Steam Workshop, and attempt to sell it. There appears to be some kind of application process in order to get accepted into the program, and what appears to be a strict verification process for the paid content that is being produced. After all, I would assume that content would be produced and would have to work across all platforms. This means you probably couldn't sell something that runs well on PC, but doesn't work right on PS4 or Xbox One. From the way it's described, it sounds like we're not going to be encountering a lot of the shenanigans that we saw with paid mods. It seems like there is going to be some oversight over what is being created, where with paid mods, it was sort of a free-for-all, where the goal was to monetize the mods first without looking into whether whatever was being sold actually worked, and whether or not what was being sold is completely the creator's original work. After all, there was some mods that appeared on the Steam Workshop that used parts of other mods, and on top of that, there were some people that stole other people's mods and uploaded them to the Steam Workshop for a quick buck through the paid mod system. I think if a system like this is done correctly, then we may even see bigger mods or user-generated content like Enderall for Skyrim get added to the Creation Club. Granted, it wouldn't be Enderall itself, but the possibility of getting total conversions like Enderall that are properly tested and released on all platforms would actually be pretty cool. I think that would be something that I might want to pay for, and if the quality of the items in this Creation Club store is high enough, then this could ultimately be a really cool thing. However, with this said, I do still have some concerns about the entire Creation Club. My biggest concern is that it's sort of a microtransaction model that we see with mobile games on smartphones and tablets. Bethesda makes money when you buy these credits, and not when you buy the actual piece of content. Maybe I'll end up being wrong about this when things are finally implemented, but I think the quality and value of the content being produced will be much higher if you're paying for the content directly as opposed to using this Creation Club currency. Here's the scenario I'm thinking of. Let's say there is a new power armor that you can buy for 300 credits, and if you spend $10, you get 1,000 credits. That would mean that a new power armor you're buying is really $3 when it probably should be less than that. Or at the very least, it should come as a part of a larger piece of content, sort of like Far Harbor, Nuka World, or even Automatron. I also think when you have a microtransaction system like this, it incentivizes people to work on smaller projects as opposed to larger projects. As a consumer, it would seem like you would want to get the most out of your credits, so you'll end up buying smaller things as opposed to larger things that you might actually enjoy a lot more. The second thing is that while the quality control for this sort of program will probably be very good, I'm not sure whether the value proposition will really be there. If this program allows people to charge money for things like weather effects, textures, single weapons, abilities, and mostly small things, I don't think it's going to achieve the result that Bethesda ultimately wants. Why buy a gun off the Creation Club when I can get a pretty decent weapon mod for free off of either the Nexus or Bethesda.net? In my mind, the point of paying for something like this is to get something that would either be too difficult, too ambitious, or too time-consuming for a modder to reasonably make. As an example, something like Enderall for Skyrim took significant resources to produce. It might as well be an entirely different game, and I think if it was marketed to people properly and sold for a reasonable price, people might be willing to pay for that. While paid content for the Creation Club aren't technically mods, they do compete with user-created mods on some level. What is stopping someone from creating a mod that approximates a paid piece of content? We've already seen mods that compete with some of Fallout 4's DLC. Before Wasteland Workshop came out, there were mods all over the Nexus that allowed the player to build larger generators. In fact, the criticism of a lot of the Settlement DLCs was that you could accomplish most of what those DLCs provided with user-created mods for the PC version. Conversely, if you're a modder, it's much more difficult to create something as large and ambitious as something like Far Harbor or Nuka World. For me personally, I would buy Nuka World or Far Harbor because it's something I can't get on either Nexus Mods or Bethesda.net. Or, well, maybe I can get it, but only once or twice a year, if that. My final concern is how this affects the modding community long term. As I stated before, on some level, mods do compete with this paid content. If this program is successful, Bethesda is going to be making money off this paid content, and it seems like it would be in their best interest to limit mod tools in an attempt to sell their paid content. Right now, you get the same tools that Bethesda uses to create their games. Perhaps in an attempt to push paid content, Bethesda limits their mod tools to where you simply aren't capable of creating things that are of the same quality that appears in the Creation Club store. Perhaps this final concern is somewhat unfounded though, as the modded community is a big reason why Bethesda's games are so popular. I think if they were to cripple their tools this way, I think the PC gaming community would throw a fit. After all, a big reason why people buy Bethesda games on PC is to play around with and more easily create their very own mods. Especially in an era where most developers either don't include mod tools so they can sell you their DLC, or because the development tools are simply too difficult to learn. Even still, I would imagine that the success of the Creation Club program would have both foreseen and unforeseen consequences to the modding community, both for better or worse. What I think I will say is that I am cautiously optimistic about the Creation Club program. I think Bethesda has the potential to put together something that is really great, and I think if they focus on high quality, great value paid content for Skyrim and Fallout 4, I think people will warm up to the idea of paying for this type of content. But alright guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and let me know what you think of this particular video, but otherwise, like this video if you liked it, click the bell to join Notification Squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see you all next time.